It is 2:33 hours local time, and within a mountain complex in North Korea, just over 100 miles from the Chinese border, technicians urgently remove camouflage netting from the entrance to a deep underground bunker. The bunker, cleverly carved into the mountainside and concealed under camouflage, aims to deceive American spy satellites orbiting hundreds of miles overhead. The cover of night aids in obscuring the flurry of activity, and the dense cloud cover is precisely what the Hermit Kingdom has been anticipating. Emerging from a converted mine shaft, a colossal truck is cautiously maneuvered into position. This massive vehicle serves a singular purpose, transporting the equally massive Hwasong-15 intercontinental ballistic missile. With great care, the missile is extracted from its hidden recess, and the truck initiates the arduous process of hoisting the enormous projectile into launch position. Standing at over 40 feet tall, the missile dwarfs a 2-story home and possesses the destructive potential to obliterate several square miles of a densely populated city. The launch command officer picks up a phone directly linked to an underground telephone line connected to Kim Jong-un. Resorting to primitive telephone technology ensures that the United States or its allies cannot eavesdrop. On the other end, the North Korean dictator utters a single word. The Hwasong-15 intercontinental ballistic missile ignites its main engine, causing the entire launch complex to tremble. Launch personnel seek refuge behind blast screens or within the relative safety of the launch truck's armored cab, preparing for the possibility of a catastrophic explosion involving the missile and its fuel load. 2 seconds later, the missile proves operational and ascends from the ground. 1,000 miles above Earth, the United States space-based infrared system swiftly detects the thermal plume of the massive rocket. A low Earth satellite issues an immediate flash alert to the 2nd Space Warning Squadron at Buckley Air Force Base in Colorado, as well as to various units in the U.S. Missile Defense Network and the commanders of every U.S. geographical command. A second U.S. satellite in geostationary orbit confirms the thermal signature of a large ballistic missile, triggering a second emergency alert. The massive Hwasong-15 approaches supersonic flight, piercing through the clouds and ascending several hundred feet into the open sky. The US's space-based infrared systems satellites focus on the unmistakable thermal signature of the formidable rocket. Though cloud cover obscured the launch from the naked eye, the intense heat emitted during liftoff is easily discerned by infrared sensors. The US satellites promptly compare the North Korean rocket's thermal signature with a comprehensive library of known missile launches, securing a match with 2 different Hwasong-15 test launches from the late 2010s. The confirmed match is swiftly relayed to US Space Command. US Space Force personnel, taken aback by multiple threat warnings from the space-based network, urgently sift through the data. However, humans are inherently slower than machines, and verification of the threat will require additional time. The North Korean missile now reaches twice the altitude of a commercial airliner, with its main rocket engine still operating. Space Force personnel verify the launch as authentic. An emergency flash notification is dispatched to US forces in South Korea and across the Pacific. The missile's destination remains uncertain at this early stage of its flight. Via hotline communication with the Department of Defense and the White House, the alert spreads North Korea has launched a ballistic missile, potentially armed with a nuclear warhead. The Hwasong-15's main engine shuts down as it depletes its fuel. The missile glides for a moment, hurtling through the upper atmosphere at several thousand miles per hour before explosive bolts just under 3/4 of the way up separate the first stage from the second stage. In the next second, the second stage's engine ignites, propelling the vehicle forward as it prepares to exit Earth's atmosphere. An aide urgently interrupts a meeting between the President of the United States of America and the leader of a partner nation. With no time for formalities, the President is practically pulled from the room to be informed North Korea has launched a nuclear attack and the target is still unknown. The President swiftly heads for the highly restricted and secretive Situation Room in the heart of the White House. From there, he can communicate with American forces worldwide and receive real-time tracking data from various American assets. U.S. Space Command issues an order for radar installations in South Korea and Japan to begin tracking the North Korean launch. Sea-based Spy-1 radars on American naval vessels are networked into the massive surveillance effort tracking the missile. Although the missile is at its most vulnerable while boosting into space, the United States still lacks the capability to rapidly destroy a missile during this initial phase. Development in high-velocity projectiles and directed energy weapons aims to enhance this capability in the near future. For now, all U.S. assets can do is observe and gather data to determine the missile's trajectory and activate appropriate missile defense assets. With a nuclear threat confirmed, the United States Secret Service initiates preparations to relocate the President to a secure and highly classified location. If the missile is aimed at the White House, the President has less than 40 minutes to evacuate. U.S. terminal high-altitude defense batteries in South Korea, Guam, and Hawaii are activated. Their powerful AN/TPY-2 radars scan the sky for signs of the impending missile. These batteries, designed to obliterate an incoming ballistic missile during its terminal phase, can currently only defend specific areas. Patriot missile defense batteries in U.S. bases across the Pacific go on alert. Similarly, U.S. Aegis-equipped warships in the region receive the same alert. Their SM-3 missiles can be used for short-range ballistic missile intercepts just outside the atmosphere, but require the target to be in its descent stage. With a range of several hundred miles, each Aegis-equipped ship can protect multiple U.S. installations or naval battle groups. U.S. Northern Command at Peterson Air Force Base begins preparations to activate the United States homeland defenses. At Fort Greely, Alaska, and Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, the ground-based mid-course defense system is activated. Comprising 44 interceptors, these missiles have a greater range than mobile THAAD or the Navy's SM-3 missiles and are designed to intercept a target in the mid-course before it enters the terminal phase. More data is needed, and all U.S. forces can do is watch and wait. It becomes evident from the missile's trajectory that this is not an attack against forces in South Korea or Guam. Japan is ruled out as a target. While Hawaii remains a likely target, the rest of the U.S. mainland is also under consideration. The U.S. President is notified that based on the missile's trajectory and speed, this is not a test of a new missile. All data points to a legitimate launch against American forces. Given North Korean capabilities, it's likely an attack against either Hawaii or the American West Coast. Although North Korea has missiles capable of reaching the East Coast, precision targeting is doubtful. The President authorizes the use of ground-based interceptors against the incoming threat and orders U.S. Navy ships near Hawaii or the American West Coast to move into positions to best protect major population centers. Specially modified aircraft take to the skies across the United States. Loaded with communications gear and shielded against electromagnetic pulses, these doomsday airplanes have a crucial role to ensure that the President of the United States can maintain contact with all U.S. military forces, even in the event of a massive nuclear strike against the homeland. Flying high enough to evade destruction below, they establish a direct airborne link between each other and surviving space and ground stations worldwide. These aircraft, known as doomsday planes, will remain airborne until the crisis concludes with a dedicated fleet of aerial tankers keeping them fueled and flying. Currently, they settle into an orbital pattern across the West Coast, the East Coast, and the American heartland. The entire US nuclear triad is officially on alert, ready to retaliate against any potential threat. Acknowledging the possibility of another nation exploiting the cover of a North Korean strike to attack the US, America now stands prepared to engage in a nuclear war against any adversary. Troop recall orders are issued for American units globally, instructing soldiers to abandon their current tasks and report for duty. Nuclear-capable aircraft and munitions are readied for potential loading and launch. Deep in the depths of the world's oceans, the American nuclear ballistic missile submarine fleet makes its own preparations, poised to unleash devastation upon the president's command. The second stage of the Hwasong-15 missile exhausts its fuel. The payload separates from the second stage using chemical-powered thrusters to adjust its course and heading. Now flying unpowered, the missile rides the incredible momentum generated by the massive two-stage rocket, hurtling through the sky at a speed of up to 4.2 miles per second. US Space Command issues new tracking data on the North Korean missile, confirming the separation of the payload from the second stage. With this updated information, Hawaii is ruled out as a target. The current speed and elevation indicate a likely impact on the Southern American West Coast. Armed with the latest data, US missile defense personnel opt for a ground-based interceptor GBI launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base instead of Fort Greely in Alaska. 4 of the long, slender missiles are activated and fed real-time targeting data, but must wait until the enemy missile draws closer before launching. The American president is hastily escorted out of the Situation Room and to Marine One, his personal helicopter. 2 attachés accompany the president. One carries the nuclear football, the Remote Nuclear Command Authority unit, empowering the president to order Armageddon from anywhere in the world. The second attaches a large backpack-like communications device, ensuring the president stays in contact with all branches of the government and the military at all times. Choosing to board Air Force One instead of heading to a predetermined shelter, the president believes there's little risk of a full-blown nuclear attack on the homeland. From Air Force One, he can remain safe from the ground effects of a nuclear blast and stay connected with the military and government. US and South Korean special forces stationed in South Korea and Japan mobilize, hurrying to armories in preparation for a potential strike into North Korea. These elite units, on high readiness due to recent tensions, deploy specially modified Black Hawk helicopters with the capability to evade enemy radar and operate more silently than any other helicopter globally. Their mission: infiltrate known North Korean nuclear sites and neutralize them from within. US and South Korean alert aircraft take to the skies, anticipating a full-blown offensive from the north. On the ground, forces across the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, gear up for combat and alarms blare in Seoul. In case of hostilities, North Korea is expected to shell Seoul directly from behind the DMZ, with the capability to unleash a staggering 10,000 rounds of high explosives per minute on the city of 10 million. American supercomputers calculate the trajectory, altitude, and speed of the North Korean warhead, feeding the data to the ground-based mid-course defense system. With precise calculations, the computers determine a firing solution, and the green light is given for the launch of interceptors. 4 ground-based interceptors, GBIs, lift off from their silos in the California desert. These missiles are not directed at the current position of the North Korean warhead, but rather where it will be intercepted with a dumb kinetic warhead, obliterating the enemy nuke through sheer kinetic energy. TPY-2 and sea-based radars are networked to provide constant tracking data to the interceptors. In Guam, Japan, and South Korea, aircrews rushed to their aircraft, anticipating full-blown war with North Korea. F-15S and F-16Ss are deployed initially to establish air dominance. The usual stealthy B-2 bombers are unavailable, so the formidable B-52S are prepared for immediate action. These aircraft, dispersed across the South Pacific, can deliver firepower within the day. US interceptors are now in space, hurtling toward the calculated intercept point with the North Korean warhead. These interceptors have shed their ascent stages and make slight corrections using chemical thrusters. If the calculated firing solution is inaccurate, Navy's Aegis vessels may need to intercept the warhead before it reaches an American city. Updated tracking data suggests that Los Angeles is the likely target. The first wave of US Special Operations Forces receives the green light from the American president and takes off in their modified Black Hawk helicopters. Their destination includes several North Korean nuclear launch facilities believed to be capable of rapid deployment. Simultaneously, other ground attack aircraft based in South Korea are en route to destroy any ability for North Korea to launch a second attack. The US President boards Air Force One. Upon arrival, he requests a formal declaration of war with North Korea from the United States Congress. The North Korean warhead unexpectedly fragments into multiple smaller pieces, releasing a cloud of highly reflective chaff. This metallic confetti aims to confuse radar systems, making it challenging to target the warhead. Now in 8 pieces, each one could be a separate warhead or a decoy meant to divert missile defense systems from the real threat. US ground and space-based radar grapple with identifying the genuine warhead among possible decoys within the threat cloud. TPY-2 and sea-based X-band radars take on the critical task of providing a precise intercept course for America's ground-based interceptors, GBIs. Powerful processors sift through available data to distinguish the real threat from the chaff and decoys. The stakes are high. Failure could result in catastrophic consequences. Through extremely precise measurements, the dummy warheads are singled out. Despite North Korea's inexperience with multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, Mir-V warheads, and the use of decoys, the dummy warheads don't perfectly match the profile of a real warhead as they travel through space. Armed with a solid intercept solution, the GBIs release their exo-atmospheric kill vehicles, EKVs. 6 minutes remain until impact, and all that remains is to hope for a successful intercept. Unbeknownst to the United States, China deploys its rapid response forces into North Korea. Elite Chinese troops enter North Korean airspace to seize Kim Jong-un's nuclear arsenal, aligning with the same objective as the Americans. However, the convergence of American and Chinese forces raises the specter of a potential all-out war between the US and China. American EKVs hurtle through space at over 4,000 miles an hour, seconds away from success or catastrophic failure. The first EKV narrowly misses the North Korean weapon by a dozen miles. The second EKV misses the warhead by over 3 miles. A second after the second EKV, the third strikes true. Moving at a combined speed of just under 10,000 miles an hour, the impact produces a bright flash in the sky. While the impact doesn't trigger a nuclear explosion due to the precise chain of events required, it signifies a successful intercept. Multiple ground stations and ship-based radar assets confirm the positive outcome, 2 misses followed by a direct hit. The threat has been neutralized, and the dummy warheads will burn up in the atmosphere. The American president receives the good news aboard Air Force One. Despite the threat being over, he refrains from ordering a return to the White House, recognizing that the conflict has just begun, with more potential nuclear attacks from North Korea looming. On the ground, half a world away, the South Korean and US armies prepare for what will be the costliest war since World War II, surpassing even the original Korean War. American warplanes head to North Korea, ready to drop tens of thousands of pounds of high explosives on suspected nuclear sites. Special forces from both the US and China race to seize Kim Jong-un's nuclear arsenal. On the border, the North Korean army initiates its opening gambit, unleashing over 1,000 pieces of artillery on the South's defenders. The stage is set for a conflict of unprecedented proportions.